Hotels are meant to be places of rest and luxury, but sometimes they become the backdrop for chilling mysteries. From eerie disappearances to deaths that defy explanation, these stories will make you think twice before your next check-in. Buckle up as we dive into the 5 most disturbing hotel deaths of all time. Trust me, you won't forget these. It started out as a carefree solo adventure. 21-year-old Elisa Lamb, a bright, curious student from Canada, was just beginning her California journey. On January 26, 2013, she checked into Los Angeles' infamous Cecil Hotel, hoping for a few days of urban exploration, bookstore browsing, and fun in the sun. But what was meant to be a dream trip turned into something far darker, and ultimately her last. The Cecil Hotel itself already had a spine-tingling reputation. Serial killers like Richard Ramirez once roamed its halls, and urban legends whispered of ghosts and curses. But Elisa didn't know that. Or maybe she didn't care. Just days after she arrived, things got weird. Hotel guests and staff started noticing strange behavior. Elisa was moved out of a shared room after allegedly leaving creepy notes like "go home" and "get out" on her roommates' beds. She was even escorted from a TV taping for acting strangely. Still, no one could have predicted what was coming next. On January 31st, Elisa visited The Last Bookstore, an artsy local spot just blocks away, chatting excitedly with staff about books and souvenirs for her family. But later that day, she vanished. When her parents didn't hear from her, which was out of character, they panicked and called the LAPD. The police scoured the hotel. No signs of forced entry. Her belongings, including meds for her bipolar disorder, were still in her room. Nothing made sense. But then came the elevator video. Released to the public, this footage became one of the most viral and haunting clips on the internet. In it, Elisa presses nearly every button in the elevator, steps in and out, peeks around like someone's chasing her, then gestures as if talking to someone unseen. The door never closes. The video fueled countless theories. Was she on drugs? Was someone stalking her? Was it paranormal? Weeks passed. Then came the water complaints. Guests reported weird-tasting water and low pressure. On February 19th, a maintenance worker went to the roof, checked the tanks, and made a horrific discovery. Elisa's nude body floating inside, her clothes sunk to the bottom. The hatch had been left open. The autopsy found no signs of trauma, no drugs or alcohol. Just one chilling fact: her prescription meds were barely in her system. Experts suggested she'd suffered a psychotic episode, possibly hallucinating and trying to hide from something that wasn't there. They believe she climbed the fire escape, opened the tank and got inside, but couldn't get back out. And here's the creepiest part. There was no way anyone could have forced her in without leaving marks. No bruises, no cuts, just mystery. Some say it was the dark energy of the Cecil Hotel. Others believe it was the tragic result of untreated mental illness. But the image of Elisa, alone, scared, hiding in plain sight, haunts people to this day. Despite the pain, Elisa's family has continued to honor her memory. They spoke openly about mental health, hoping her story might help others struggling with bipolar disorder. Her online blog, full of raw and heartfelt posts, still resonates with fans who never even met her, but feel like they knew her. Elisa Lamb was a daughter, a sister, and a dreamer who just wanted to see the world. Instead, she became the center of one of the internet's most disturbing unsolved mysteries, one that blurs the lines between reality and the unexplainable. And though her story ended in tragedy, the legacy she leaves behind is one that reminds us: check on your loved ones, be kind to strangers, and never underestimate the unseen battles people fight. It was supposed to be a quick, uneventful shopping trip. On a warm March morning in 1995, 32-year-old Gerard Low, a cheerful chemical engineer from South Africa, landed in Singapore. He was just here to grab some electronics, maybe a video recorder or a new pair of kicks. Nothing wild. A dedicated husband and father, Gerard had mapped out his schedule to the hour, even promising his wife Vanessa that he'd call the second he checked into the hotel. But Gerard never made that call. and tragically, this trip would be his last. At first, everything seemed normal. After arriving at Changi Airport, Gerard met a charming, friendly Brit named Simon Davis. The man offered to split a hotel room at the Riverview Hotel to save money. It seemed harmless. They checked into room 1511, but what Gerard didn't know was that Simon Davis was actually John Martin Scripps, a convicted British criminal, someone far more dangerous than he let on. The next day, Gerard's name mysteriously vanished from the hotel's registration system. When asked, Martin claimed he had kicked Gerard out for being gay, a claim not only suspicious but tragically weaponized in a country where homosexuality was criminalized at the time. That same day, Martin began using Gerard's credit card to go on a shopping spree around Singapore. $6,000 in bank withdrawals, a $490 camcorder, a pair of $180 Nike trainers, and tickets to a symphony concert. Because apparently murder pairs well with classical music. While Martin lived it up, Gerard had vanished completely. No calls to Vanessa, no return flight, just silence. Then, on March 13th, a chilling discovery. A plastic bag floating off Clifford Pier, containing a pair of severed legs. Over the next few days, more pieces, thighs, torso, all Caucasian, all chopped with eerie precision. It took until April 1st for Vanessa Low to confirm the worst. The remains belonged to her husband. Gerard's head and arms were never found. Authorities suspected foul play from the beginning. The clean dismemberment suggested a disturbing level of skill. A forensic pathologist concluded that whoever did this had training. A surgeon, a butcher, or a prisoner who had worked in a butchery. That last guess, spot on. Martin had learned to cut meat while in prison, and now he was applying that same craft in horrifying ways. Martin's trial in Singapore became infamous. Gruesome photos of body parts were shown in court. Martin claimed Gerard made a sexual advance on him, and in a panic, he struck him with a hammer. He blamed a mysterious British friend for helping him hide the body, but this phantom friend was never found, and his story was full of holes. Martin had even signed restaurant bills and made calls from the Riverview Hotel during times he claimed he was elsewhere. The prosecution believed Martin's motive wasn't panic, it was greed. He'd murdered Gerard to steal his identity and credit, and disturbingly, he'd done this before. Gerard wasn't Martin's only victim, just one in a string of tourists the tourist from hell lured, killed, and butchered. Martin was eventually convicted and hanged in 1996, the first Briton executed in Singapore since its independence. As for Gerard, he wasn't just a victim, he was a loving husband, a father, and a man whose life was senselessly taken. Vanessa and their child were left to pick up the pieces, but they refused to let his memory fade. His murder prompted conversations about hotel guest safety, identity theft, and the dark potential behind a stranger's smile. In the face of such horror, one thing remains clear. Gerard Low was deeply loved, and he is deeply missed. It was a sunny, ordinary day in downtown Los Angeles back in 1964, the kind where pigeons fluttered through Pershing Square, and 65-year-old Goldie Osgood, known fondly by everyone as Pigeon Goldie, was doing what she loved most, feeding her feathered friends and wearing her LA Dodgers cap with pride. She was staying at the Cecil Hotel just a few blocks away, a place known for its low prices and long-term residents. Goldie had no idea that this day would be her last. She was beloved by everyone in the area, a retired telephone operator living out her final years alone, but certainly not lonely. She had heart, sass, and birdseed. The whole community knew her. She was that sweet, quirky neighbor who'd talk your ear off while shooing away greedy seagulls so the little pigeons could get a bite. She had no enemies, or so it seemed. Later that evening, after a peaceful day at the square, Goldie walked back to her room at the Cecil Hotel. She exchanged goodnights with other tenants, like always, and vanished into her room. An hour later, just an hour, a hotel worker delivering phone books made a gruesome discovery. Goldie was found murdered in her ransacked room. She had been brutally beaten, raped, and strangled with a hotel hand towel. Her birdseed and Dodgers cap lay scattered on the floor, like tragic symbols of a life cut short. What makes this case bone-chilling isn't just the horror of the crime, it's the sheer speed and stealth with which it was carried out. People saw her moments before she was killed. The killer must have been waiting in her room, or shadowing her step, and in a hotel buzzing with residents, not a single person saw anything. Police arrested a suspect named Jacques Eilinger, found wandering nearby, covered in blood, but plot twist. He was quickly ruled out. No charges, no real leads, and no justice. Even creepier, Goldie's murder resembled another woman's death just months earlier. Viva Brown, 50 years old, also strangled in a hotel room nearby. Same method, same victim profile. Police never made a connection, at least not publicly, but one medical examiner was convinced it was the same killer. This led to the chilling theory. A serial killer was stalking elderly women in LA, hiding in plain sight in budget hotels, striking fast and vanishing without a trace. Some even whisper that the killer might have stayed at the Cecil himself, blending into the chaos of a place already crawling with crime. No footage, no sketch, no viral videos to rally justice like the Elisa Lamb case decades later. Goldie's story faded into the background of the Cecil's bloody history, overshadowed by Night Stalker headlines and Netflix specials. But here's the haunting part. Her murder remains unsolved. Over 60 years later, her killer has never been found. And if he's still alive, he'd be in his 90s by now, living free. That's the kind of real-life horror no ghost story can top. Still, Goldie's friends never let her memory go. The local community, many of them as poor as she was, came together and planted flowers around Pershing Square. It was a small garden of grief and love. They didn't have much, but they gave what they could. That's who Goldie was, someone worth remembering. There may be no justice for Pigeon Goldie, no viral campaign, no suspects or courtroom trials, but there is this, a story, a quiet legacy, and a message to anyone listening. Kindness matters, even if the world forgets you. So, the next time you walk past a pigeon or find yourself in LA's Pershing Square, maybe drop a few seeds. Say a quiet hello to a lady in a Dodgers cap who never got to say goodbye. It was just another sunny Bangkok afternoon at the Grand Hyatt Erawan, glamorous, luxurious, everything you'd expect from a 5-star stay. For 6 Vietnamese guests, some with American ties, it was supposed to be a simple business meetup over lunch and tea. No drama, no headlines, just 6 people in a fancy suite, wrapping up a weekend and preparing to fly home. But room 502 would become their tomb. They had no clue that this peaceful lunch would end with all of them sprawled across the floor. Lifeless, victims of what would soon be dubbed one of the most disturbing hotel deaths in Bangkok's history. The group had gathered to settle a financial dispute. Shireen Chong, a Vietnamese-American woman from Oakland, owed about $280,000 to a married couple, Di Nguyen Phuong and Hong Pham Than. They'd loaned her the money to invest in a hospital project in Japan. Instead of facing each other in court, they agreed to meet in person to talk things out. Shireen checked into room 502 alone. The others arrived separately. Also present was Thi Nguyen Phuong Lan, there to mediate, Dang Hung Van, whose role remains unclear, and Din Tran Phu, a well-known Vietnamese makeup artist hired by Shireen for the trip. Phu had even messaged his family saying he was staying an extra day. No one imagined it would be the last time they'd hear from him. At 2 p.m., Monday, hotel staff delivered food and 6 cups of tea to room 502. Shireen received it and, this is important, refused help brewing the tea even though the waiter offered. He later said she was visibly stressed and barely spoke. By 2:17 p.m., all 6 people were seen on security footage entering the room. After that, total silence. No cries, no calls, nothing. When they didn't check out the next day, staff grew suspicious. Using a secondary door, they entered the suite. What they found was chilling. All 6 guests were dead on the floor. 2 appeared to have crawled toward the door before collapsing. The food was untouched, still wrapped, but every single teacup had been used. Inside those cups, a strange powder. Tests later confirmed cyanide, the kind of poison that can kill in minutes. There were no signs of struggle. The room was locked from the inside. This wasn't a robbery, and it definitely wasn't suicide. One of them had poisoned the tea. Photos of the scene quickly spread online. Pristine dishes, lifeless bodies, and a police diagram of the room fueled viral speculation. Had Shireen poisoned everyone out of desperation? She was being sued by every other person in that room. The motive was clear. The tea delivery time lined up, and she was the only one there to receive it. But since she also died, the case hit a dead end. No one else was in that room. No one heard anything. No forced entry. Just 6 people, 1 poisoned pot of tea, and a mountain of unanswered questions. Cyanide, by the way, is brutal. It shuts down your body's oxygen supply from the inside out. Within seconds, you're dizzy. Minutes later, gone. The victims' lips had turned purple. Their organs were blood red. It was swift and silent. Families were left shattered. Din Tran Phu's father said his son was just doing his job, working with clients he trusted. He was 37, successful, and full of life. Now, he's gone without warning. Authorities in Thailand and Vietnam continue investigating. The Vietnamese government got involved quickly, urging justice and answers for the victims. These 6 people were more than headlines. They were loved, they were valued, and they didn't deserve this fate. Their story is a haunting reminder. Even in the most luxurious places, the darkest tragedies can unfold in complete silence. It was just another humid morning in Geylang, Singapore's red light district. The streets were buzzing, neon lights flickered, and inside one budget hotel, 2 cleaners went about their usual routine. But when one tried to sweep under the bed, it wouldn't budge. It felt heavy. Curious and a little creeped out, they crouched down, and what they saw would haunt them forever. A naked woman's body, crammed beneath the mattress, blood smeared underneath. Her skin was already discolored, veins dark, and the stench unbearable. She'd been there a while. That woman was Radhika Devi Thyagaraja, a 21-year-old Sri Lankan sex worker. She was also 7 months pregnant. Sadly, both she and her unborn baby boy were dead. 2 days earlier, on September 2, 2008, Devi had checked in with a man captured by CCTV. Dark-skinned, beige cap, ordinary-looking. That man was Madhuri Jaya Chandra Reddy, a 20-year-old construction worker from India. They'd agreed on $50 for sex. After 2 rounds, Reddy wanted more. Devi demanded more money. He refused. She threatened to call her agent. That's when it turned violent. In a panicked rage, Reddy strangled Devi with his bare hands. She was pregnant, unarmed, and couldn't fight back. Once he realized she was dead, he tried to hide it, literally. He slashed open the fabric under the bed, shoved her body inside, and laid the mattress back down. Then, get this, he left the hotel, found another sex worker, and came back to the same room to sleep with her. All while Devi's body was still under the bed. The next morning, after the gruesome discovery, police arrived fast. They combed through hotel records, CCTV, and even found a hidden stash of belongings in the bathroom wall. Devi's passport, clothes, and a prepaid SIM card. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death: manual strangulation. The fetus had died with her. At first, another guest named Sammy, who had checked in just 9 hours before the body was found, was wrongly suspected. But autopsy results cleared him. Devi had been dead much longer. CCTV footage and phone records led police to Reddy. He'd stolen Devi's phone and jewelry and was still using the phone after her death. Officers traced the number, staked out his dorm, and caught him just 22 hours after the body was found. Reddy confessed everything. He said he'd panicked and hid the body. He even admitted to returning with another woman because he thought being seen with a second girl would throw off suspicion. Originally charged with murder, which carries the death penalty in Singapore, Reddy pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 17 years in prison and 12 strokes of the cane. So what makes this case so disturbing? It's not just the body under the bed, though that's nightmare fuel. It's the casualness, the coldness, the fact that he literally used the crime scene again. It's something out of a horror movie, except it really happened. Radhika Devi was more than a headline. She was a mother of 2, with another child on the way. Her family mourned her deeply and pushed for justice. While nothing can undo the horror, her story lives on, as a reminder that every life matters, no matter where it ends.